What's good, everybody? Is when I come back at y'all with another video. So this video I wanted to talk about an interesting topic, a fun one here. And with this video, it's about the power of thinking outside the box. So I'm sure you've heard that statement before, right? Think outside the box. Basically meaning that you want to think differently. Because the box itself, what that's referring to is the limitations that are placed, that you've placed on yourself, or the limitations that other people have set, or the box can represent the boundaries that were put up, right? Essentially, it's like things should be done a certain way and everyone needs to fall in line. Now, there is true power in thinking outside the box, because what you're effectively doing is you're basically eliminating all limiting beliefs. You're eliminating the gates, the fences, and you're saying, you know what? I'm going to do something differently that hasn't been thought of or considered, right? Because oftentimes, in almost any industry, in almost any business, right, generally there is a normal way to operate, a normal way that things need to be done. But what you need to understand is a lot of the great inventions and innovations that exist today, that have been staples, were because of people who decided to think outside the box, people who decided to try something new, even if it may have seemed like a ridiculous idea at the time. And then seeing it all unfold is what allowed it to become this big thing, right? With these video ideas, like for example, I love bringing up examples so you guys can also follow along with me, right? An example that I want to give up of a multi-billion-dollar company that you all have heard of, right, that use the power of thinking outside the box is Snapchat, right? Social media platform Snapchat, we've all used it, right? Snapchat is one of those platforms that was created thinking outside the box, because Snapchat itself is a social media platform where people will share short videos, right? Clips, short videos, etc., that would disappear after a set amount of time. Usually it'll be on someone's like story for like a day and it'll disappear. So it sounds silly, the idea, the whole concept, because why would anyone want to post a video that would delete after a day, right? Wouldn't people want to save these memories? But the funny part is, the reason why Snapchat was so popular is because people were able to share moments of their lives, moments in time, right? And some of these videos, of course, could be funny things, could be embarrassing moments, etc., that people may not want to save the entire time. Or it can just be, small clips of what someone is doing throughout their day to inform other people, right? So the inventors of Snapchat, they were able to capitalize on this because it was a revolutionary idea. It sounded very backwards, of no one would ever use this platform because no one would want their videos to be deleted. People would want to keep them. But it required people to use it to realize how much fun it actually was to be able to share messages with one another, or to just showcase your life for the different moments in time of things that's going on, to spark up conversation or reacting or connecting with friends, etc., and it led to being a multi-million, if not billion-dollar company because of it. So this is what I mean. This is what I mean when I say the power of thinking outside the box, because oftentimes there are rules and regulations, right, of the proper way of how things should be done, that everyone needs to fall in line with the standard protocol. But sometimes straying away from the norm is what can help take you far, because at that point, that's when you're allowing your creativity to run free. That is when you're allowing yourself to truly be an innovator, right? And to let your imagination run wild, because just because certain things are the way they are does not mean that things are in its optimal form, right? Another example that I can give you guys are umbrellas, right? we've all used a standard umbrella, the umbrella that, you know, everyone used an umbrella before, the standard umbrella. However, the problem with those umbrellas is oftentimes water gets everywhere and it makes a mess. And, if you were to open an umbrella and then try to get inside a vehicle, right? Sometimes the umbrella will get trapped. It becomes a nightmare, right? However, there were inventors who kept the same idea of an umbrella, but literally inverted the way the umbrella opens up. Like, you can probably Google this, like an inverted umbrella, and it functions exactly like an umbrella, except instead of pushing the umbrella and it opens outwards, um, or it is basically inverted the way it opens and closes, right? Instead of opening out, it basically folds in. So the reason why folding in makes more sense is because when you use the inverted umbrella and you close the umbrella, the remaining water that's in the umbrella, it can be poured out. So it holds all the water within, so it doesn't make a mess anywhere. And when you're trying to enter your car, the inverted umbrella makes it easier because it closes straight, and then you can enter your car and pour out the water from the inverted umbrella. So this is what I'm talking about, right? Oftentimes, because something is a norm and it's done a certain way, therefore it needs to continue being done that way. But sometimes the way things are does not mean that they're in the best way or the optimal way. You know what I'm saying? And it's the same with anything that you want to pursue, right? Oftentimes, even getting started with YouTube, there's some standardized information, but there's other videos. Like, if you're ever looking for YouTube videos talking about how to grow a channel, right? There's usually some key pointers that is listed across all the videos, but there's also conflicting information of some people saying, oh, you need to be doing YouTube shorts to go viral. Other channels are saying, oh, you need to do standard videos. Other channels are saying, hey, you need to do short form content or long form content, right? When it comes to the YouTube space, right, your channel is your channel. You're free to take it wherever you want. You're free to let your imagination run wild. So whatever it is that you want to do with it, that you have good feeling about, that makes you proud of your work, that is the best way for you. It's not using any other cookie cutter method or instructions from other channels, because what could work in another channel, another niche, may not be what's best for your channel in your niche, right? It may not even be best for your style of content, right? Some people, when they put together videos, they write out an entire script so they know exactly what they're going to say, and they read off the script the entire video. I don't do that, right? My videos, I come up with an idea, I come up with a title for a video, and I pretty much record the entire video in one shot, one take, one sitting, right? That is the form of content that I'm most comfortable with, because this is me being authentic, being true to myself, and me speaking from the heart, right? All these topics that I'm talking about, I'm passionate about. I'm always learning, I'm always growing, I'm always getting better and improving. And of course, my delivery in content will improve, and of course, eventually the setup, all the equipment, everything will continue getting better over time. However, I'm happy with the content I'm putting out, and this is what works for me, right? And eventually, right, I will continue thinking outside the box and doing things completely differently if it means getting better and getting to the next level, right? I don't have to follow the norm. If you continue following the norm, there's nothing wrong with following the norm in certain areas, and right, like, there's nothing wrong with that. But what I'm saying is, like, typically, if you continue to just do everything how it's always been done, then sometimes it can pose a challenge for you if you're trying to stand out, right? Same idea in life itself. If you're following the crowd, doing exactly everything that everyone else is doing on the planet, then you're just most likely going to get the same results as everyone else. And if you want to live an extraordinary life, or you want to have your life be different than other people, then chances are you might need to begin doing things differently that the average person isn't doing, right? So it's the same idea there, right? In order for you to think outside the box, what it requires you is to drop all of your preconceived notions, is to all of the guardrails, all of the standards, the protocols, the procedures that were already set. You need to completely eliminate that and erase that from your mind and begin operating from a clean slate. Don't begin thinking about how things should be, right? The example that I read in the book, they're saying if we use like building a house, for example, thinking outside the box would be to completely eliminate the thought process and the idea of how a house should be built, and beginning from a clean slate to see where the inspiration takes you. Right now, of course, when it comes to building a house, obviously there needs to be safety and everything, right? Because you don't want the house like collapse, right? But you get what I'm trying to say. The same idea here. If you were into fashion, right? Perfect example. You're into fashion and you're designing shirts or you're designing sneakers, right? If you want to have something completely different, you have to get rid of any ideas of how things should be, right? You have to, because that is how you innovate, because that is how you think of something that hasn't been thought before. That is how you let your inspiration and your imagination run wild, by getting rid of all the ideas that you previously had of how things should be done. Because oftentimes people begin with how things should be done, and that's why it leads to people arriving at the same conclusion over and over and over, rather than you going wherever your true self is telling you where to go. So that's the power of thinking outside the box, because when you think outside the box, it can lead you to create something that has never been created before, or something that has never been seen before, right? My channel, I'm operating my channel thinking outside the box, right? Because I'm not trying to be like anything or anyone else. I'm talking upon different topics that I'm passionate about, and I'm speaking from the heart each and every time when I record these videos, right? So I'm doing it how I want to do it and how I envision myself doing it from now until as however long I continue doing this, right? But I'm doing this because I want this to be part of my life, that I want to continue sharing bits and pieces of information and provide you guys value each and every day to help push you forward, right? So sometimes that can be the biggest shift for you, that can help change things for you, right? Thinking outside the box and not just doing things how everyone is telling you it needs to be done, right? Sometimes you need to try something differently to see if you ever stumble across gold, right? And you being as great as you are, as intelligent as you are, as bright as you are, you're definitely more than capable. And when you try something different, you never know if you may end up creating the next big thing, or you may stumble across the next major idea that could change it all for yourself and your family, right? You just never know. But that, and it's also going to be a lot of fun along the way, thinking outside the box, trying new things, right? So point of it all, it's obviously to have fun. But yes, that is the power of thinking outside the box, thinking differently, right? Drop all of your preconceived notions of how things should be done, right? And just begin working with a clean slate, and just let your imagination run wild, and you'll begin having fun and seeing the power in that. So that wraps up the video. Enjoy the video. Do leave a like and subscribe, as we are on the road to 1 million subscriber, guys. Once again, it's Joel, and I'm out. I'll see you guys for the next video.